Hey, well, this is Zacchaeus with another live word of the day. Got some sad news. This will happen on the October the 25th on a Wednesday. Check this out.
To follow developing news out of Lewiston, Maine, where at least 16 people are dead this morning after a mass shooting. The victims were at a restaurant and a bowling alley when they were gunned down. Several sources say more than 50 people were hurt. There have been no arrests so far, but police have named a person of interest, Robert Card, 40 years old, who is considered armed and dangerous. Here is the alleged gunman captured on surveillance footage as he entered the bowling alley. We have that video. There you go. Our Elaine Keano is in Lewiston, where people are being told to shelter in place. Elaine, good morning.
Good morning to you, Anne Marie. And it's not just residents of Lewiston who are being ordered to
Ongoing
shelter in
thing.
place. It's people in the entire surrounding county. Now, as a precaution, multiple schools and businesses have been closed today as well. And residents are being told to clear the streets as hundreds of police officers work around the clock to track down that person of interest.
We have an active shooter. We have multiple injuries.
Shortly before 7 p.m., bystanders young and old fled for their lives Wednesday night after a gunman opened fire at a bowling alley in Lewiston.
Daytime recreation for an active shooter incident, multiple people down.
After reports of the shooting, police released these photos of a man walking into the bowling alley and pointing an AR-style weapon.
Just normal night of bowling, and out of nowhere, he just came in and there was a loud pop. Thought it was a balloon.
This witness says he was inside the bowling alley for just 10 minutes when shots rang out.
I just booked it down the lane, and I slid basically into where the pins are and climbed up in the machine and was on top of the machines for about 10 minutes until the cops got there.
Police also released this image of the person of interest's vehicle in a parking lot, its driver's side door left open, which police later recovered nearly 10 miles away in Lisbon.
We have a second active shooter, Schwangies.
Police said they responded to a second location at a bar and restaurant less than 4 miles away, and then released this image of 40-year-old Robert Card as a person of interest in the pair of shootings.
Have PD on scene, but the suspect is still at large.
According to a Maine law enforcement bulletin seen by CBS News, Card is a trained firearms instructor believed to be in the Army Reserve, based out of the city of Saco, Maine. He recently reported mental health issues and threatened to shoot up the National Guard base there. He was committed to a facility for 2 weeks over the summer.
We have literally hundreds of police officers working around the state of Maine to investigate this case, to locate Mr. Card. We'll continue to gather information so that we can bring the suspect to justice.
As the search for Card continues, dozens of victims flowed into the local hospital system, which could quickly become overwhelmed.
I've heard people that down there by the doors that have family members in there. There was a girl down there with 5 people, all got shot up. And they're like frantic.
So far, 22
While others
people
gathered at a nearby middle school in Auburn, hoping to reunite with loved ones who were caught in the shootings.
This is a happier place right now in the entire area where people, witnesses saw traumatic events are coming together with their family and loved ones who were worried to death about them, and they're coming together. So it is happy. But on the flip side of the happiness, what you're seeing the turmoil and the trauma that they're going through, especially the witnesses.
Now, we are still awaiting additional details, and Anne-Marie, we hope to learn more at a news conference later this morning.
So I don't know how much you can sort of tell us, though. I see the road blocked off behind you. I know that people are being told to shelter in place, but clearly everyone can't do that. I mean, people got to get to work. People have things to do. What is the latest that you can share with us on sort of the search for the shooter and how police may be conducting this?
Yeah, so it's a bit tough right now. We just arrived on the scene, frankly, not that long ago. We have seen some cars going by despite that shelter-in-place order. But what I can tell you is that a short time ago, we heard some helicopters overhead. It is hard to know precisely which agency those helicopters may have belonged to, or if they were news choppers, frankly, Anne-Marie, we don't know. But from watching some of the local reports on the way in here, there's a definite sense of a heightened state of alert, I would say. Some of the residents have talked about this being the kind of place where you can leave your doors unlocked. Certainly not the situation now. The residents here are very much on edge, as you can imagine, as that search for that person of interest continues.
When we were talking to Bradley Blackburn earlier, he basically said that the entire state of Maine only, has a handful of sort of homicides. So this must be really out of the ordinary for this small community.
Absolutely. I mean, shock is the word that you hear over and over, and that's really sort of the situation now. At the same time, even as officials are, continuing to look for this person of interest, it is hard to describe now that the sun is out. Just taking a look around, it's a sort of a picturesque setting, as you might imagine, here in the.
Ladies and gentlemen, these are times that we're living in. And as you can see, the gun violence continues as mentally ill people all over. They don't choose one part of the country, or they don't choose one part of anywhere in the world. Massive shootings will continue to rise. Why? Because laws remain the same and refuse to change, because there's money to be made, money in owning and money in the firearm industry. And because of that, this will continue. Now, and it's only and it's really what could be the strategies that you could be put in place in schools, bowling alleys, and people and most people would say, some people would say that why don't you have shooter training, meaning that teach people how to lock down in place, teach people how to go into place and lock down when they hear a massive shooting, go in place and lock down. Like maybe they do it once in a while in certain college campuses where they have a massive shooter on campus training, where they teach people how to lock down, which they just give it to the office. They just train the officers in that way, but maybe they should train everybody, the students, the staff, to get to learn to train them how to lock down in place when a massive shooter. Maybe that will lower the casualties. I don't know. Leave a comment. But if laws are not changing and situations and they restrict certain times of carry and restrict people for having guns, and let's face it, the reality is that guns will still come in. Reality is that if you're not covered under the blood of Jesus Christ and you're not praying, it's you just gotta go out there and just pray and always pray for God's protection. And yes, things are not gonna change. Things may not change, but at least you can pray and ask God for protection. This is coming from CBS News. This footage, and Robert Card is a guy that's on loose. They haven't caught him yet. So this is not so. He appeared in, I think it was 22 casualties, 22. And I want to say quickly, RIP for the victims, also condolences to the families who lost loved ones in the massive shooting. And they're still shooting, they're still looking for this. He's on the loose. Robert Card is on the loose in Maine. And if things don't change according to restricting guns and trying to and seizing guns and restricting them, this will continue to. And if people are so greedy, and certain politicians are so greedy with money, and certain leaders are so, and it's all about the money game, it's not gonna change. More lives will be lost. More lives will be lost because nothing is changing. and this mental health issue is continuing to rise, and that should be addressed too. Mental health issues is off the roof at this time, off the roof. So much chaos going on in the world, and and the thing is too, around this time too, a lot of blood sacrifices. I'm gonna say it. Sometimes and around this time, especially during this going into the Halloween moment time, it's always some chaotic things before this demonic holiday, demonic day starts. Chaotic, chaotic. Something is bound to happen. Something is gonna happen and bound to happen. Because when you turn your back on God, and when you turn your back, it's fair game. Things happen, and more people lose their lives. As you see, it's a chaotic time we're living in. Wars are going on, crazy chaotic times. And the only thing that will sustain you, the only element and source that can sustain you is using wisdom and asking God for protection. That's the only element that will fully protect you. Because when you go out there and you don't pray, if you're not a praying person, a person that asking every day when you go, so when your loved ones step out of your going out of your home, the loved ones, and even when you're coming home, you always got to pray for God's protection. When you hop in that car, pray for God's protection. When you step into a supermarket, pray for God's protection. When you get ready to drive, pray for God's protection. When you go into a school, a place to learn, pray for God's protection. Look, Robert Carr entered a bowling alley. He entered 3 places already. This man entered 3 places already. This man had already entered. They didn't catch the man. They didn't catch the man yet. It could go. It can happen anywhere. Massive shooting. People losing their lives can happen anywhere. It doesn't matter where it is. And it was saying that Maine, that area of Maine, was a peaceful area where things they're under shock. It's happening in remote places. It's happening in suburbs. It's not only happening in the ghetto, but it's happening everywhere. Everywhere there's crowded of people. Even if it's not crowded people. And when you go to supermarkets, they're shooting. There you go to supermarkets, there's gonna be shootings. And there's shootings. When you go to schools, shootings. Bowling alleys, shootings. Supermarket, I mentioned supermarket already, shootings. It's crazy. And you don't have to take my advice, but it's always wise to pray. It's always wise to pray and ask God for protection. My family, we do it all the time. Before we even hop in the car, we pray and say, Lord, before we even turn on the ignition to drive. Lord, I pray that you protect us before we go to our destination. Keep your hands of protection on us before we go to our destination. Because as you know, ladies and gentlemen, mental health is he's mentally ill. Robert Carter is mentally ill. And this man is there's a lot of mental health issues out there. You never know what can trigger somebody else off. You never know what people are thinking. If you never know when you're in a group or in a crowd, you never know who is thinking crazy and who is mentally ill, or who thinks somebody's talking about them, or who thinks that the world is against them. And because they think the world's against them, there you go. They carry a firearm with them, and then they start shooting people. We're living in these times, y'all, that I'm telling you, you got and especially around these times where you got Halloween coming up, and you got these things coming up, these paganistic holidays coming up. People are crazy, and they already lost their minds. Every year it happens, closer to this time, and I'm glad CBS was able to share this news, get this footage out, because not only is there 2 wars going on, wars and chaos going on in other parts of the world, there's also chaos here in the United States. This recently happened past Wednesday, October 25th. So, And I said it in the video because they had a shoot just a few months ago. They had a shooting. A few months ago, just a few months ago, there was another shooting, and now boom, there's one again. So you have to ask yourself, and you gotta ask yourself. I said, who's my protection? When I step out the door, who's my protection? When I step into a place of business, who's my protection? And when there's a massive crowd, when I'm in a public place, like it can happen in the airport, it can happen in the supermarket, it can happen in a bowling alley. Robert Card went everywhere in Maine, a lot of places in Maine. They mentioned a bowling alley. They mentioned a few places. They mentioned, places of entertainment, and anywhere. Massive shooting can happen anywhere. Shooter on premises can happen anywhere. And folks, we gotta pray. I'm a big emphasize. I'm a big because without God's protection, it's like it's fair game. Without God's protection, it's like you're a moving target. And we gotta pray. It's only God that wakes us up to see the next day, and it's only God that when we go in and come and go out, He protects us, and then we come in. We thank Him for seeing another day. Because folks, when we go out there, even when you come home, you just never know when somebody mentally ill, you're around somebody mentally ill. We don't know that. And the mental ill population is booming. Booming. It's crazy and it's scary. Scary for those who are not covered under God's covenant. And yes, I'm not saying it can happen. It can happen in church too. It's happened in church many times. So prayer is key, and God is the element for your protection. God is a source of your protection. Trust Him and believe Him. So the live word today is coming out of Psalms 121, verses 7 to 8. The Lord will keep you from all evil. He will keep your life. The Lord will keep your going out and your coming in from this day for this time forth and forevermore. Let's keep praying, folks. And let's pray for God's protection. And also, I want to say this too. And always be aware of your surroundings. If you see something, say something. Be aware of your surroundings. And I believe that they should have more lockdown trainings. It's not realistic where everybody, because not everybody's gonna want to follow suit. Not everybody will want to go on or cooperate. But at least the few people that do, at least they'll be safe. Get more training on shooter on premises. There should be more training on that for not just the officers, but the public as well. But this is Zacchaeus with another live word of the day. God bless and be safe. And remember, keep praying and asking for God's protection. But this is Zacchaeus with another live. If you like what I shared, smash that like button. Also subscribe to my channel. And once again, prayers go out for the people that lost loved ones in this tragedy, in this massive shooting. Also, condolences to the families of the victims. But this is Zacchaeus with another live one. God bless, peace and blessings. And thanks for tuning in.